Welcome back to the 19th hole from Mike Kosiek. I'm Jake Parry. Thank you all for tuning in. We are going to break down the Open Championship. And I don't know about you, the Open Championship this year, Royal Birkdale, it's in my native land. I'm very Irish. And anytime we can be, it's technically the United Kingdom. Someone's going to get really mad at me about that.
Where are we playing this golf tournament?
In the United Kingdom, which, depending on who you talk to, Ireland is or is not a part about it. But I was just saying this all to set up a segue, which is to talk about family. The IBT Golf Family is your free-to-join way to gain access to chats with our analysts and viewers, entry into our memorabilia giveaways, as well as our PGA one-and-done contest. And then for $3.99 a month or $36 for the year, you get access to our exclusive weekly betting model and our full betting cards. Since I hit on Tom Kim to win last week, as well as the ladder plays on him, we are sitting over 150 units positive this year. So we are rocking and rolling. So you don't want to miss out on all of the great information that we had tried to share with all of you there. But if golf isn't necessarily your thing, or it's something that you're starting to get into, but you're a fan of football, you're a fan of racing, you like betting on Rotten Tomatoes scores like I do from time to time, you get access to all three of the additional families on top of the IBT side, or the golf side of things. So do not hesitate to join. Again, just $3.99 a month or $36 for the year. You can join at in-betweenmedia.com/chat or with the link in the episode description. But Mike, before we talk about the Open, let's talk about the Scottish Open. I don't have the power to do it, but I am calling Tom Kim an honorary Scotsman. Tom Kim takes home the Scottish Open. He just continues to have good performance after good performance these last few weeks, and this week highlighted it. You know, I talked about going into the show, obviously, 86-1. I thought it was a great number for him. I thought his skill set really fit what we were looking for at this event. And then it worked out for us, obviously, with him being able to take home the win. It was not an easy win all the way, but I'm saying that at the same time where the guy shot a 64, his best round of all 4 days on Sunday to clutch the win. Minwoo Lee coming in second, another guy that I also did really like this week. But I mean, come on, I said it. Why not Tom Kim? And then he said, well, Jake, let me show you. And he goes off, unsurprisingly, one of the best players on approach in the week, gained over 8 strokes on approach. And we talked about, you know, what had been inconsistent for him, what had been a thing that held him back a lot in his career has been the driver. It's been the play off the tee. He finished top 10 in strokes gained off the tee, top 30 in putting, or around the green, top 20 in putting. Just had a great performance all around. And I think perhaps the most telling thing is led the field in scrambling.
You know, my stock on Tom Kim had been generally going down. I think his antics in TGL, this manufactured relationship with Scotty Scheffler, like it just, I just am out on backing Tom Kim. But you made such a good case during the show last week, and I think he's made the case for himself in the weeks leading up to the event here. He kind of put himself back on the map, getting himself in contention. You know, back at the U.S. Open, he finished in third at the U.S. Open, and he flirted a little bit at the RBC the week before. And then he went to a golf course where he has a fantastic track record, even though I tried to take away his third place finish at the Scottish Open because it was under the name Ju Young and not Tom.
It was a great question. It was a great thing to bring up.
You had to factor it in. And the reality is you chose to count both of those. But this is the golf course he's played well at. And he has he's been on the right trajectory. I think to your point, the driver has to work for him. And he did gain almost 2 strokes off the tee with his driver. Still lags the field average in distance, but you can get away with that on these open courses that play firm, that run out, and you can get yourself in position, stay out of trouble. And he's always been particularly accurate off the tee. And I think as long as you keep yourself out of some really tough bunkers and other areas on a golf course like the Renaissance Club, you can get it done. And so I think he did all the things right. You were all over it. 86-1, looking back on that, is like a crazy number absurd for a guy that was in like coming in really good form on a course he's played well at. And so congrats to you. And I slotted him in DFS in a handful of spots. He was crazy high owned, but who cares if he wins the golf tournament? My only thing is that the Scottish Open to me was the 3rd most interesting golf tournament on Sunday you could watch.
Oh, you mean like Haerun Ryu going back to back, having never won a major on the LPGA Tour and just going out in a 3-week span, winning 2 of them?
What's awesome about the timing of all of this was that this event in France is wrapping up it's a time zone ahead of Scotland, but it's wrapping up like right around breakfast time. So I have all 3 of my kids on the couch and we're locked into the Evian Masters. And partially because, Haerun Ryu, we just went and saw her at the LPGA Championship in the Minneapolis area. I took my kids out and my boys, my 2 younger ones with me, my boys, high fives from Nelly Korda on Saturday, which was super cool.
That's awesome.
But what we saw, we saw Haerun Ryu play Saturday, and then we went home and watched her on TV on Sunday. And then it's like, boom, 3 weeks later, she's in contention. And for it to go to a playoff and Brooke Henderson to be in the mix, eagling 18 to put the pressure on. Haerun sinks a curling 18-footer on 18 anyways to get into the playoff there. It's a really good golf tournament. I hate that golf course. I really do not like watching it. It's always in terrible shape in the middle of summer in France. The greens are small. It doesn't make any sense, but it produces drama, which I guess, if you're going to have 5 majors, one of them's got to produce some drama coming down the stretch. So really cool finish to that one.
Yeah. Especially when you consider that was the epitome of an up and down tournament for shoots a 60, the lowest score ever recorded in LPGA majors ever, sets an all-time record, and then follows it up with a round where anybody who was watching that tournament is gritting through some of these shots, like giving up a 6-stroke lead to then have to birdie to get into a playoff. And then
that's her first birdie of the day.
Literally. And then to get into the playoff with Brooke Henderson, who, by the way, has the most John Daly golf swing on the LPGA Tour. But it's not even John Daly, because the way that she crosses the line like John Daly, but the way that she drops it back into the slot is insane. If you've never seen Brooke Henderson's golf swing, you absolutely need to go just look up a quick video of it, because it's kind of hilarious to watch.
She's not tall. She's 5'4". And so she's got to generate that power. It is an aggressive move. And unfortunately, ultimately probably cost her the event, hitting the ball in the rough on the playoff hole on 18 and not getting, taking out her chance to be able to get there in 2, and then ultimately, juices the wedge into the green a little bit. But it was, did you see Ryu's reaction when she realized she shot 60? Had no idea. It's like unconscious, like one of those unconscious moments.
Oh yeah.
You could see her counting up the scores on the scorecard. And then she short circuited because she was like, oh my God, I just left a putt short to shoot 59.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Like I've never had a score that low. But my all-time low is 66. And trust me, I was very cognizant of what I was shooting. Like the game was in flow state, but at the same time, and maybe it's differences. Like I never played competitive golf growing up. I never, I played a little bit in high school. That was mostly just to get free golf. If I'm being honest, get out on the golf course, get to practice for free. It got me out of baseball conditioning too, which was awesome. Probably should have gone a little more than that. Maybe I wouldn't hurt myself so much, but every time that I play a sport, I know exactly what I'm doing. And maybe that's I I grew up as a baseball player. I was a pitcher a lot. So I'm thinking of my pitch count. I'm thinking of like, especially I was playing in the time right around the time where we're starting to get statistics more frequently. So I'm like, all right, if I'm going to go to college, if I want to play baseball, I need to know how hard I'm throwing. I need to know how this is working, XYZ. So like, I'm always super cognizant. So I've never understood the flow state thing, but it's still so cool to see because she was truly just out there playing a great round of golf. Shirley has to know she's playing well, but then you hit that moment where you're like, I really only took like 35 full swings today.
It's crazy.
But it was awesome to see.
Her. Yeah.
Absolutely awesome to see. In perhaps the other tournament that you were referring to, in an event that it's an alternate event. Like this was not one of the ones getting a ton of prestige. It's only a $4 million purse. So it's one of the, if not the lowest purse we'll see as a PGA Tour sanctioned event. But Stephen Fisk, what a performance to pull that out. 3 playoff holes to get the win. That up and down on the second playoff hole was like, you could put that in compilations of best final round performances, best playoff performances on the PGA Tour. And I don't think anybody would bat an eye because there's no way he should have been able to make a 4 there.
You're talking about the one he hit out of the bunker? Actually,
yeah.
2 bunkers. Yeah. He, every single one of these guys has been through, some level of pressure over and over again throughout their golf career. Like this isn't the first time that he's had to put himself in remotely the situation, I'm sure. But this one certainly offers the most upside. And so I am always fascinated to see a guy like Stephen Fisk, who is a PGA Tour winner, but here now has the chance to kind of further cement at least a very nice lifestyle around the PGA Tour. And this is everything he's ever worked for. And how unflappable he can be as like basically a professional no-namer. Like we've seen Stephen Fisk do anything. Granted, he won the Sanderson last year, but like,
but how many people knew that he won the Sanderson last year until the broadcast told us?
Exactly. And so, but how prepared he is to operate in that environment. Now he executed, and it's why he won the golf tournament. In hindsight's 2020, we can say this. But Taylor Pendrith too. I mean, don't discredit Taylor Pendrith.
I love
the up and down he made on the same hole from after Taylor some ridiculously bad golf shots under pressure. I was not surprised to see him miss the birdie putt in regulation. Was it in regulation or maybe it was the first playoff hole? The shorty that he ran by.
I think the first playoff hole.
Yeah, because he was already in the clubhouse. He ran that 10-footer by about 4 feet.
Yeah,
which no surprise. I mean, he's been the alternate captain on Team No Putt for years. But the second playoff hole, he has an approach from like 150 yards off a flat lie in front of the bunker on the right side of the fairway, and he misses right of the right green side bunker, about 20 yards short of the pin. Like just an absolute pressure golf swing that he collapsed on, and he got that ball up and down. And so now I missed a little bit of the third playoff hole, so I didn't exactly see how he ended up short of the green so far. Mm-hmm. But Fisk, like I said, I think it was just really cool to see this guy just take advantage of this moment, be super cool under pressure, and hit like not 1 in a million, but a 1 in 1,000 bunker shot, given the scenario on that second playoff hole. Really, really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a great reminder that to get to this level, like, yes, we talk about Stephen Fisk kind of being a professional no-namer. Obviously, last year or so has been great for his professional career. But, like, this is a guy who won 9 times in college, won 4 consecutive tournaments in 2018. He finished second individually at the 2019 NCAA championship and was on a winning Walker Cup team. Like, this is a guy who knows how to win golf tournaments and knows how to play great golf. It's just a friendly reminder of how brutal professional golf can be for a lot of players, where if you are not on your A game consistently, you end up being a guy like a Stephen Fisk who turns professional after this great college career, has to go the PGA Tour Canada route, then gets on the Korn Ferry Tour for a few years, and then gets his card, wins in his first season, wins in his second season on tour. Like, yes, he's a professional no-namer, but it also goes to show how quickly your career can turn around. Winning last year, guaranteed, 2 years on the PGA Tour. This win, that's extended. So he's got a few years here guaranteed. Obviously, he's the type of guy who wants to keep winning. He doesn't want to just coast by on, his exemption for a couple of years, but it was awesome to see. And, this was a great tournament to watch on Sunday all the way around. I think we all kind of knew Lucas Glover wasn't going to pull it off.
Thank God.
We are both very avid, not Lucas Glover fans, so that was unsurprising to see. We did get to see Jackson Koiven in contention. He was up to, I believe, just 2 strokes back of what ended up being the winning score. Still shot a 67, so still played a great round on Sunday. Gets a top 10 in his second start as a professional. We saw some other interesting names up there. Big Zach Blair guy over here, so seeing him in the top 10 is always fun. I'm also not a big Zach Blair guy. It just seems notable that I've written about Zach Blair more times this year than I have Scotty Scheffler, if you want to get technical. Because I write about Scotty every week, but it's normally like, yes, we know Scotty's the best player on the planet, but here's who else you should look at. And then it's like, I actually think Zach Blair's a pretty decent value this week. So it feels like notable to bring that up. But again, just a great weekend of golf for any golf sicko, and we're going to get another one coming up right here. So let's get the caddy notes ready and start to talk about the 2026 Open Championship. Mike, I don't even think I have to say it at this point. The people know, I know, you give great course breakdowns to us over here at the 19th hole. So why don't you tell the people a little bit about Royal Birkdale?
Well, it's amazing how much difference a week makes when you're looking at how this course is playing. We talked a little bit about this during the Scottish Open preview. Royal Birkdale, last season Open Championship in 2017, and prior to that, 2008, is, by current boots on the ground accounts, a very different golf course. It is still located in Southport, England, and it is still going to play as a par 70, although it has been lengthened slightly since it was played 9 years ago. But it is going to be ridiculously firm and ridiculously fast. Part of what the McKenzie Group did when they came in to renovate this a couple of years ago in preparation for the Open was they anticipated the playing in firmer, faster conditions. And so they created some very interesting short par 4s that will be drivable and carry lots of risk reward. They've also created some absurdly lengthened par 4s and par 5s, including the 14th hole, which, if they want to put the tees in the right spot, could play over 700 yards on the cart.
Just
now,
absurd.
And they know the way the wind is going to predominantly blow in this, in these regions. And so that hole's probably playing downwind most of the time. Doesn't necessarily make it easier. Might be reachable, but when you're coming in with a 330-yard 3-wood, it's going to be hot. Like, good luck keeping that thing around the green. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the players fare on a golf course that will probably feel like nothing like it felt 9 years ago. And I think Jordan Spieth was on the record saying, this is a vastly different golf course. Yeah. I don't know that the scores will be different. But you go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, just like early, like you said, the boots on the ground reports. Michael Kim has on Twitter, great follow for anybody who's listening and does not follow him. If you want to kind of learn some of the insights of pro golf and kind of what goes through these guys' mind, it's brown there. This was kind of smack dab in the middle of that heat wave that the United Kingdom went through, which, for some of us in the US, hearing that they, were getting close to 100 degrees, most of us might be like, yeah, it's Tuesday. But for an area like this, that doesn't happen frequently. So this course is dry. This course is brutal. And like, Michael Kim is talking about straight downwind on one hole, on a couple holes. He hit a 4-iron, 290 yards off the tee. He had a 3-wood go 330 yards. Like some of these courses, the way this course is going to play is so different than what we've seen. And that's not even accounting for the fact that, like you mentioned, the wind is going to play a factor in this event. It's not been super windy thus far, but it's still projected to be fairly windy. It's almost impossible for this region not to be some level of windy come tournament weekend, but it's going to be a unique course in a lot of ways, especially compared to what we've seen. And playing that firm, that fast, if the greens are as firm as I've heard, it's going to be hard to hold a lot of these greens too.
Yeah, absolutely. What's unique about Royal Birkdale, and it's different than, you recently saw St. Andrews, and St. Andrews is very much this like flat coastal prairie that sits right there by the water. Royal Birkdale, the holes, while still influenced by the coastline, sit in these valleys between the sand dunes. And so you don't have the same sort of the vistas across the golf course that you do on like a St. Andrews. Each hole is sort of tucked in its own little spot, and you sort of have to figure out each puzzle one at a time. It also creates a lot of challenges with the wind, because you almost get this like wind tunneling effect in some spots where it's going to be hard. Now, again, Jordan Spieth shot -12. He won at -12, won by 3 in 2017. And, I'll take it for what it is. Like, there's going to be birdies out there. The golf course is still going to play 7,200 yards, and guys are going to be hitting some absolute bombs no matter what they're hitting off the tee. But I do think it changes the profile of golfer that you are going to be looking for, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So again, I'm not saying this isn't a birdie fest, and it is not going to be this like car nasty test. It's going to be scoreable, but it's just going to be a really interesting golf tournament to watch. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
So speaking on the type of players that we're looking for, looking at our models so far, we have a lot of the same thing, a lot of double bogey avoidance for me. But this is a course where, driver accuracy is going to come into play. I see you're using total driving, correct?
I did for this one, just because I wanted the blend of accuracy, because I do think that is important. Yes, you can hit it far here, and length is going to be a benefit when you're playing a 7,200 yard golf course. But this isn't like St. Andrews, where you literally can hit it anywhere. You have to get in the right alleys at Royal Birkdale to avoid, which basically, again, in the restoration, was created these channels that, knowing in firm conditions, the ball's going to take this channel and run it into this bunker or this fescue. And I think the other thing too, around the rough, because it's been so dry, you do not have this thick primary cut that some Open championships get a handle on, but you do have some nasty fescue, and that thick primary cut is not existent. So balls that are running out of the fairway are going right into the wispy stuff.
Yep.
And so again, that accuracy number, I think, is ultimately going to be important here, because you can't just bomb it sideways like some of the Open courses.
Yeah, I'm taking a slightly different approach. I'm actually leaning a little bit heavier on the accuracy side of things. I think with the rollout, we have kind of seen that neutralize some of these link style courses distance wise. That's why we see a guy like a Tom Kim. That's why we've seen a guy like a Bobby McIntyre win at the Scottish Open. And I know we'll touch on some of the correlation there. But I think really what it does is, like, the true benefit you get from distance is some of these guys don't have to hit driver to get the same distance that some guys are going to have to get with driver. And that's really where the advantage comes from. I just know the misses here can be so brutal with that fescue. So I'm leaning into driving accuracy and distance from edge of fairway, because you can play out of this rough. You can play out of even some of the fescue. But once you get past the fescue, which, yes, there is area past the fescue, and it can be absolutely brutal. So leaning a little bit heavier onto the accuracy side of things, sticking with kind of the slow putting that we've seen. Obviously, with the greens playing this firm, we may see the greens speed up a little bit, but it's not like, overall, I would say the model's pretty straightforward, leaning into a lot of our standard strokes gain numbers. Sand saves does get a boost. There's 110 bunkers on this course, the second most that we've seen over the last 5 years on the PGA Tour. So sand certainly can come into play, but besides that, approach proximity, I'm focused on 150 to 200. Is it the same for you?
That's right. That's the one. That's the bucket I pulled in. I'm not a huge I'm kind of getting a little colder on proximity buckets just because they are the fact that guys hit so many different clubs from so many different distances. Like I do not see it as being like the pure path to victory, but I usually try to mix one in, and that's the one I picked this week.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of weight on it. I have more weight on overall approach, specifically approach in windy conditions, just kind of expecting that. When you play in the wind, as we know, it changes the way that you hit golf balls. Hitting a 200-yard shot, on a completely no wind, perfect day is very different than hitting a 200-yard shot with even 10 miles an hour of wind in your face, let alone the gusts of up to 30 that we could experience this weekend. So it's pretty clear that we have, similar models overall in terms of the stats that we're looking at. Comp course wise, I would guess that we're probably pretty similar. Some of these Open Championship courses, seeing a lot of courses similar to the Scottish Open, which again, we'll touch on that in a second. So I'm seeing.
Can I actually comment on that really quick? Because I think here's a tough thing around building the comp list. When you are at this, we have the same challenge with the PGA, same challenge with the Open Championship. Especially with the Open Championship, it's difficult to bucket performance on the Open Championship rota and use that to correlate the one course to the next.
Right.
Primarily because the weather has such a big factor. And so you can't just look at how you played at Birkdale because the golf courses play different, the weather played different. And like just bucketing like Carnoustie and Muirfield and St. Andrews and all that into one bucket of, hey, link style golf courses. I don't know that you get the same profile translating from one to the next. And there's also a feeling that some courses invite the long shot champion better than some of the other ones on the overseas. And so while I use both the comp list that you created, and then I used a strict comp list of just US courses. Mm-hmm. And the three that two US courses and one imposter Scottish golf course. But I liked the comparison to Waialae as just being this like interesting, non-obvious comparison of a windy, dry golf course that requires you to hit golf shots into corridors and with non-driver. And you could say the same about Harbour Town, although I think Harbour Town probably plays a lot softer than the more exposed Waialae. But I just thought that was an interesting comparison to bring in because it's the kind of player that I want. And so that was it was not obvious. The other one I wanted to bring in more of, but I just so little data exists around it is Trinity Forest in Dallas, Dallas, I think. But the Texas courses always intrigue me because that's where guys play in the wind. Now, the problem is most of our Texas data now is either the big wide open prairies like Memorial Park or Craig Ranch, or you get an old school style course like TPC, San Antonio or Colonial. And like the comps just didn't quite fit, but I really like Waialae and I paired that up with Renaissance Club and and lo and behold, I mean, we'll talk about these guys, but there's a guy I really like this week that might've played pretty good at Waialae earlier this year. So we will dig into that.
Let's dig on into it. So let's get the clubs twirling and start to break down our plays for the week. So looking at the books this week, it tells a tale. It's a tale that we're not necessarily surprised to see. Scottie Scheffler, betting favorite. Closest odds we've seen to him and Rory probably all year. Scottie, best odds you can really get on him, 7.5 to 1. Best odds on Rory, 8.5 to 1. A little bit surprising given that we just saw Scottie Scheffler miss his first cut since 2022 last week. Or am I crazy? Are we just going to still have Scotty as the favorite until we?
No, it is. Well, I think what the book you're banking on is that Scotty got 2 more days of practice than everybody else.
Well, and you lagged really bad right there.
It's kind of been happening. It caught up and then it's kind of back. 30 minutes. Okay.
All right. But yeah, so with these odds, like Scotty just comes off of his first missed cut since 2022. Is Scotty just going to continue to be the favorite no matter what until forever, basically? Or are we going to have to see him miss multiple cuts for him to not be the favorite in a tournament? Or
that is a great question. I can tell you that as long as he plays this event and the next event, he will be the favorite. But Scotty got 2 more days of practice than Rory at Royal Birkdale, so I think that's worth a little bit of value.
Definitely. I mean, we saw all of the hoopla about Rory getting extra practice at Augusta this year, so certainly a different player getting some extra practice at a major venue can't be necessarily an issue. But we've had the odds for a little bit now. We both have alluded to there's a pretty strong correlation with performance at the Scottish Open to performance at the Open, regardless of venue. So I know we both have some data on kind of the type of players that we're looking for here, but you found some really interesting data on direct correlation between the Scottish Open and the Open Championship.
I mean, this is a less than scientific account presented by Twitter's none other Brian Kirshner, but the data that he presents is real on finishing positions. The last 4 years since the Scottish Open became a co-sanctioned PGA Tour DP World Tour event, you've had this extremely tight crossover between players playing well and finishing well at the Scottish Open and then turning around the next week and playing well at the Open Championship. And we've already gone on to say that the Renaissance Club is not like your Open Championship courses. But there's something to be said about acclimating to the conditions, acclimating to the time, and just getting comfortable playing golf in that part of the world. Last year, Harris English finished as runner-up at the Open Championship. He was T22nd at the Scottish. Not a great finish, but Gotterup won the Scottish, turned around, finished 3rd at the Open. Fitz finished 4th at the Scottish, 4th at the Open. Clarkey finished 11th at the Scottish, 4th at the Open. All last year, you had 4 guys finish in the top 20 that turned around in top 5 at the Open Championship. This goes back. Xander, 15th at the Scottish Open, turns around and wins in 2024. Harman, 12th at the Scottish, wins in 2023 at the Open Championship. Cam Smith was 10th at the Scottish the year he won at St. Andrews. Tommy Ladd was 4th and 4th. Like, it just... if you just look at the guys that, in my case, finished in the top 13 in the Scottish Open last week, half of them are people you would have called contenders anyways at this golf tournament. And so you can almost buy yourself a full betting card this week, just taking those guys and betting them top 5 because 2 of them are going to pay off.
Yeah, and I found some similar data. This is courtesy of @GolfRamble on Twitter. All of the last 12 Open Championship winners had a previous top 2 finish in a major, at least 3 top 15 finishes in their last 5 starts, a top 40 OWGR ranking, a top 3 finish on the PGA Tour already that season, and a prior top 20 in a previous Open if they have played one. So the list here is essentially only 3 players who meet the criteria that I have, which is Scotty, Wyndham Clark, and Justin Rose. I could see 2 of them winning. I'm kind of a firm out on Justin Rose for the time being. Yours is a little more favorable. Your list has Matt Fitzpatrick, Bobby McIntyre, Rory, Wyndham, Gotterup, Tommy Fleetwood, Minwoo, TK. Why am I blanking on TK?
He just won.
It took me a second there. We're recording late at night, people. Patrick Reed and Viktor Hovland, who all kind of meet that criteria as well. There's also, Nakajima, Johnny Keefer, Dior Bjornsson, Perez, Siwoo, Raw. Like there's not some great names there. But there's also a couple names that I think are like disgustingly close to this number. Like on mine, for example, Sam Burns is not in. He does have a T31 that was at Royal Troon where he shot an 80 on Sunday and was one stroke out of qualifying for this number, essentially. Tommy Fleetwood doesn't count in my number here. He has 2 top 4s, no top 3s though. So just outside of it here. So, the correlation says one of these players should win. That said, anytime you're trying to pick a list from 3 winners, especially when one is Scotty, who's not been the best version of himself this year. The other is Wyndham, defending a championship. Can he do it? I don't know. You also have, if you expand this number, you can get more players into the list, and we see some more overlap. We see Matt Fitzpatrick getting here. If you expand this to top 15 finishes, you get Hovland in there. Bobby McIntyre shows up. Tom Kim shows up. So, data says there's a good subset of golfers that we can pick from here. But at the start of the board here, we're going with Tommy Fleetwood. You have Tommy going 18-1 via DraftKings currently. Fleetwood is number 2 in my model besides Scotty. You're not going to get any argument for me on Tommy Fleetwood.
No, of course not. And you rarely don't. I mean, other than, the guy looks great on paper all the time. And I know we rag on a couple of pros that look great on paper all the time and never pay us off. And honestly, honestly, Tommy doesn't pay it off all that often in reality. But again, I'm going to go back and back a guy that had a really nice Scottish Open, has just actually missed his last 2 cuts at the Open Championship. So we've kind of fallen off a little bit from building up that. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at Tom Kim here. Like, what are you talking about? Tommy Fleetwood.
I was going to say,
I got the wrong Tom. No,
did miss the cut in 24.
He did, but he's got 5 top 20s in 5 of the last 7 Open Championships. I mean, this is the type of golf that Tommy plays well, and he's playing really good golf regardless, minus his missed cut at the PGA Championship. He's had 6 top 15s in those last 7 starts outside of that missed cut. So he's doing all the Tommy Fleetwood things right now, hitting it awesome off the tee, highly accurate, awesome on approach in here. Like, it gets no more storybook than Tommy Fleetwood, a prodigy of Southport, England, winning the Open Championship on the same day that England beats France to win the World Cup. I mean, that's what's going to happen, right?
If it does happen, simulation theory confirmed. We live in a simulation if that happens.
I mean,
but
pick your
it also
this
wouldn't
week.
surprise anybody for either of those things to occur.
No, I think they both occur.
I also, sticking to our UK golfers here, Matt Fitzpatrick got him at 20.5-1. It's down to about 18 at most books here. But again, just a profile that really just kind of lights up green when you're looking at it here. Worst stat that he has is total driving, which even that considered, he's still well within the top half of the field in that metric. Just again, just a really strong profile for the venue. A guy who has played well in this type of venue, plays well in the wind, has, good, not great history at Open Championships, coming off of a T4 last year. Clearly a much better player now than he was last year. So can he parlay that into a good performance here, especially coming off of a T3 finish with arguably his best iron performance of the year? There's a lot to like about Matt Fitzpatrick as well here, but starting to get down into some of the more fun names. You're going with Chris Gotterup here, 33-1. You can get him on FanDuel. Let me see where he falls in the model. I know he never like models extremely well for me.
No.
But he's still top 30 in the model. You know, he just some of the things, really the driver accuracy, and is kind of the distance from edge of fairway, kind of the main things holding him back. When he misses by a lot, courtesy of lining up left and just praying that it doesn't go straight left and actually cuts like you want it to. But hey, man, I'm not going to knock how he's hitting the golf ball.
But here's the thing, and if we look at those approach numbers, and we're looking at the accuracy numbers, and we're looking at accuracy on all rounds, on all courses, and then you turn around, you look at him, well, but on hybrid links and true links golf courses, he's 15 in strokes gained total. And if you look at looking for my windy numbers here, and you look at dry conditions, he's a top player in dry and windy conditions, and we've modeled him in for that reason in past events. This comes down to he's the right type of player for this golf course. He is a pure golf shot creator. And if you don't think that if you think you can show up and play TrackMan golf at the Open Championship, you are woefully misguided. You need people that you need to be able to see golf shots with literally nothing else out there to focus your mind. And so he is the right type of player. And I said this earlier in the show, I wanted to model in Wiley because I think it creates the same type of opportunities. And Chris Gotterup, booked the Sony Open win way back in January. So we know he's got the Scottish Open pedigree. He played well again last week. This is maybe obviously like a number that I kind of wanted this to be like 40 or higher, but like it's the right type of player.
Another player kind of parlaying right off of him that I did want the number to be a little bit higher on, but I'm still kind of bought in. Viktor Hovland going off also 33-1. Again, just a guy who, like, coming off of a good Scottish Open, he's had consistently good performances at Scottish Opens, has had good performances at Open Championships, has a number of top 12 finishes. I'm counting a top 13, a T13 as a top 12 finish. Don't fight me. But playing good golf of late, missed the cut at the Open, but third at the RBC, wins the Travelers, top 13 at the Scottish Open. And just, again, a guy who does model really well for the venue for me. He's been one of the better players from 150 to 200. He's accurate off the tee. Good off the tee kind of in general. He's 18th in this field in strokes gained off the tee. He plays major championship golf well. In fact, I have 5 years of major data here, and he is 7th in strokes gained total in this field at major championships. So clearly understands how to play in this type of environment with this type of pressure. He's also 7th in strokes gained approach in windy conditions. So a great wind player as well. And again, just no glaring weaknesses. His worst metric for me is putting, where he, again, still ranks in the top half of the field comfortably. So I'm just generally not worried about any part of his game. It's just going to be a matter of, do we get Viktor Hovland, who's shown us he can play well in majors, or do we get US Open Viktor Hovland that was just non-competitive as a whole?
I do think that a lot of the hard work he did to build up that 7th in major championship statistics was done in the early part of that 5 years versus the last part. Like he built up so much equity during that time when he went from 2022 to 2024, and he was unstoppable. So it's in there. The part about his game that you don't see in the statistics that I am concerned about is the rapid pace at which he works through inanimate objects as golf training aids.
Hey, man, we got Wyndham Clark out there with a coat hanger. I'm not knocking it if it works. He got rid of the floaties. Hey, Nelly uses the floaties. Nelly Corda went through a floaty phase. Yeah, he's got, to be fair, the drill that he was doing today that people were talking about, holding a alignment stick at the end of the butt of your club to make sure basically
that's the oldest one in the book. I actually was happy to see that.
Yeah, I'm like, I use that one all the time when I get like feel myself getting stuck. It's a good strategy. And I think while obviously you make a great point with a lot of that major equity being built up early in his career, I think it's clear he's gotten back to being a player who can be in contention every single week. He's played very, very well.
He looked down Scotty and just took care of business.
Yeah. So great player who has a lot of potential here. A guy that popped up in both of our kind of quote unquote predictive data sets that we found on Twitter here. Wyndham Clark going at 41-1. Good number for Wyndham. This is where I wish the Hovland number was. This is where I wish the Gotterup number was, but certainly not a number that I'm going to be turned away from.
No, and I think so first of all, when you put Wyndham Clark and Chris Gotterup kind of in the same category as like the right type of player, the right type of approach to the game for the right type of golf course. I mean, I was kicking myself at Shinnecock that the way that Wyndham played LACC and there's such a tight crossover there. And then looking at both of those golf courses being like, gosh, like this feels like Royal Birkdale is going to play similarly. You know, of course, I'm going to back Wyndham this week, and then he's going to just, go and not even play the weekend. But I think the way that he hits the ball, the way that he comps on the courses that we like, the way he plays in the wind, this is a really good setup for him. And again, he's playing really good golf right now. He's got a ton of confidence. He just played well again at the Scottish Open, a place that he's played well in the past. Like, he's going to just keep it rolling, and he's certainly comfortable right now. So I will live with having to watch that stupid 50-yard fade off the tee for another 72 holes.
Yeah, Wyndham, just say it, you hit a slice. But I think the thing that about his profile outside of the correlative stats, I actually found some good correlation to, what we're predicting Birkdale to be with LACC again and with Shinnecock again. But the thing that's perhaps excites me the most in an event where it's not uncommon to see a lot of players finish over par. He leads the field in bogey avoidance over the last 24 rounds, and he's 10th in double bogey avoidance over the last 24 rounds. The guy is just playing great golf right now, and you can't discount a great player in great form at a venue like a Links Championship, Open Championship type venue.
And not at 40-1.
Absolutely not. This one may take some explaining, depending on how much time you have. I've got Justin Thomas here. He's 7th in my model. The iron numbers need to improve. I will flat out say that the irons need to be better for him to play well. That's it. His irons are traditionally very strong in the wind. He's the 3rd ranked wind player on approach in my model. He's leading this field around the green as of late, which if these greens are harder to hold is going to come into play quite a bit. But really the rest of his model actually is very promising. There's no major flaws in the game right now as long as the irons cooperate. And he's the type of player who's a grinder. He's going to be putting in the work to make sure that he's getting his irons back to where he wants them to be. But he's also, again, just a great player who is playing great golf as of late. Yes, the Scottish Open performance was not the best. The irons did not cooperate there. I'm going to trust that he has been in the environment for a little bit now, understands a little bit better of what he has to do to get that to cooperate with him. But we've seen him prior to the Scottish Open go 7 straight top 25 finishes, including a 4th place finish at the PGA Championship, a 17th place finish at the US Open. I don't know if I'm going to go the full outright market with Thomas here, but certainly interested in a top 20 number for him where he's still going off at 2.5-1.
JT did not pop for me, but he, to some extent, this is getting into where did Morikawa win earlier this year, where he surprised us all. I mean, 50-1 plus for JT, a guy that's done it, gets into auto bet territory.
Yeah, it's just once the number gets this good, I'm just going to click on it until I have a legitimate reason not to. A guy who I probably shouldn't bet, because how often do back-to-back winners happen on the PGA Tour? Not that often, but Tom Kim certainly can do it. And 60-1 is still a great number for a guy who won last week at a tournament that has shown extreme correlation to this tournament.
Yeah, 3rd in my model. I do like him this week. Comps very well at kind of all the comp courses that we piled in this week. Plus, he has the ability, like you said, to take his accuracy and move that onto a golf course that will help him get into the lower parts of his bag. You're right. It's unlikely we're going to see a Scottish Open to Open Championship winner, but yeah, I like it. It certainly is there if he can get the ball in play like he has been.
Yeah, it's probably a long shot, right? Like, this is not a guy who's known for his performance in major championships for the most part. He does have a runner-up finish at an Open Championship. He does have a third place finish at a US Open. And he's playing arguably the best golf that he's played in the last 4 years. Again, this number right now, just coming off of a win, to see the number only jump up to this range, I'm still going to be over it. So now we're getting into potentially some questionable territory for me. Patrick Reed, you like 67 to 1. In the same way you made me explain Justin Thomas. What's going on with Patrick Reed for you this week?
I say ish. Now I would say we are beyond the players who I think actually win this golf tournament. Not just Patrick Reed did finish in that group I think at 13th last week at the Scottish Open. I do have him in the top quarter of the field in the off the tee and ball striking metrics that I did work into the model. But he does not really have a good Open Championship resume. And so he's so I'm looking at this as kind of like my Brian Harmon play. Unfortunately, he's not like 150 to 1, but a guy that thrives on, Patrick Reed hasn't had a top 10 in an Open Championship since 2019, but a guy that can just thrive around the green. And if this place becomes an area where you have to have a lot of creativity around the greens, get up and down, which an Open Championship requires you to make ridiculous up and downs. Cam Smith won an Open Championship solely on his short game. And so, yes, the greens are going to be slow and they're going to be weird, but you take arguably one of the best short games, wedge game included, Patrick Reed in the field. If the path ends up going the route where the wind is wreaking havoc on these guys on off the tee and into the greens, maybe a short game specialist is the path. So I'm putting one of those on my card because I think I have the ball strikers covered.
Yeah. Okay. You kind of convinced me. I don't hate it.
He probably should be like 100. Honestly, like he probably should be like 100 to 120 to 1 though. Because like if you're thinking of it from like the Brian Harmon angle, 67 to 1. Like we just talked about Justin Thomas, and that's not that much to give up to go to JT, who's in a much better position to win this.
Yeah, him or Tom Kim. Yeah. There's certainly options there, but I do like the point that you bring up, especially as we kind of talked about the course playing firmer, needing that play around the green to probably play yourself into contention in a way if early reports hold true. Now this one, you even said you were a little ashamed about this one, but I like it. Johnny Keefer 260 to 1, baby.
I just so bad want us to have a bit we can ISO that's just like littering and smoking the Keefer. Johnny is incredibly volatile, as he should be. He is brand new to professional golf, and he basically has only played well at the golf courses that we think he should play well at, which is don't really penalize you off the tee, hit it as far as you possibly can, and do enough around the greens to hang in there. But I mean, for being a PGA Tour rookie, he does have 3 top 10 finishes this season. He has nothing else in like the top 50 outside of that, but he has peaked at 3 places, and that's Memorial Park, Craig Ranch, and TPC Toronto. 3 places where we say we want as much kind of bomb ability as possible off the tee. And I think the interesting thing is he has like flipped his accuracy numbers the last month or so.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
And so since the Charles Schwab, and he's kind of flipped his accuracy numbers. And I know that you're really high in accuracy this week. And so I think if you just catch the distance and accuracy swing for him, I mean, he just finished T3rd last week. And so this is purely a like high finish at the Scottish Open, one of the maybe 5 golf courses on the year where his very like skewed profile of distance and albeit strong approach play could help him find a top 10 finish here. 260 to 1. Like this to me, I think we said this earlier. Yes, Ben Curtis won a Open Championship at 200 or whatever his number was. I think Royal Birkdale is going to ask a much more elite golfer than Johnny Keefer to win this week, given the conditions and difficulty of the golf course from the get-go. But I do like Johnny as a dart to throw in there. And again, go work the place markets, help anchor your card. A top 40 from Johnny. I don't have the number in front of me, but it's certainly going to be plus money, I would think.
Yeah, he's minus 116 to make the cut. So basically even money there. Cut this week is 70 in ties. And then, but I mean, a top 20 is paying 6.5 to 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm probably
I like this as a give me the 5 courses he plays well at. We've already hit 3 of them. So this will be the 4th.
I like it. All right, guys, that is it for our picks of this week. But don't you worry, we still have something for the fans out there, specifically brought to you by our friends over at FantasySpin.
Spin, pick, win.
For those of you who have not experienced FantasySpin before, FantasySpin is a gamified experience that mixes DFS with the joy of a slot machine. If you are anything like us Midwesterners, you love yourself a little bit of time on the slot machines. It's a different kind of daily fantasy experience. It combines the skill of drafting a DFS lineup with the gamified experience that you get from the spins. You can enter contests and spin your DFS lineups for a chance to win big. Us over here at the 19th hole have been pretty consistently in the money almost every tournament this year, it feels like. So you're up against some stiff competition, but it is certainly worth it. Whether you're playing for free or for cash, FantasySpin has you covered. If you guys check the link in the episode description and use promo code IBTGolf, if you deposit at least $10 and play one tournament, you will get $30 in bonus play. This directly supports the program, so make sure you check out FantasySpin and let's make some noise for the rest of the PGA season. Mike, I'm doing it this week. Last week, that practice lineup we drafted would have finished first. So we're just going to send it.
No way.
Yeah. That practice lineup killed.
Wow.
So we're just going to send it
what it was.
back right into the main event this week. I've already got a cracked main event lineup. If Bryson can play semi-competent golf, remains to be seen. But we're going to go ahead and get ourselves started here. So for those who haven't used FantasySpin before, in these tournaments like the main event, you get 10 spins. As you see, Colin Morikawa just popped up on the screen. He's ranked 15th in their projections here. We get 4 locks to play with. Looking at the rest of this board and just knowing how my spins have gone, I'm going to lock in Morikawa for now. I can always unlock him later if the board is falling in a way that's favorable to me. Coming up on spin number 2 here, we get Wyndham. I feel great about getting Wyndham here. Certainly not going to be upset about that. Lagergren, should I lock him?
I don't think you have to take Lagergren this early in your spinning.
I hopefully don't have to take him at all, if I'm being honest. And we're just going to continue off of that. We do get Xander, who's projected well.
I love watching this because now I know one of the lineups I got to go up against. If I can't beat what you end up with, I should not enter more lineups on FantasySpin.
You might as well max out the event. That's what I do pretty much every main event. Coming up here, Hideki, we get Cam Young. We didn't talk about him much on this show.
I think unless you have a real good reason to fade, a top 10 player in their rankings, I think you got to take him.
Yeah. We get a Bryson and a Joaquin.
I just call it. Just call it right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. So, guys, I have 5 spins left. I could continue spinning. I doubt I'm going to get a better lineup than this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this lineup. However, if I change my mind later, if, the drinks start flowing at some point and I want to get weird with the lineup, I can always come back and use the rest of the spins that are in my lineup, but I'm going to go ahead and lock it there. As you can see with the projections here, currently projected, if everything goes exactly the way that the projections plan, I will finish 7th place, which will be in the money for this event. But my favorite thing about Fantasy Spin is, say tomorrow morning, Bryson withdraws. He's not playing for whatever reason. I get his projected point total no matter what. That is something you don't typically see on a lot of other DFS sites. And as you can see on here, you get a plethora of sports that you can compete in. They've got NASCAR, MLB, NBA. They've got NFL loaded up, so that'll be back soon. I've also played NHL on here, so they have basically every major sport that you could be looking for. So make sure to, again, check them out. You can find Fantasy Spin via the link in the description. And remember to use promo code IBT Golf and deposit at least $10. Play and win a tournament like the main event that I just entered, or it could be their one and done tournaments. It could be a head to head. There's a variety of different games that you can play, but deposit at least $10, play one tournament and get $30 in bonus play. But guys, that has been it for us here at the 19th hole. For Mike Kosiek, I'm Jake Parry. We will see you all at our next tee time.